Alright, welcome back to the tailgate. No clue if this is a continuation or a start point or what's going on exactly. Just tons of random things that need to be done, and this is one of them. So this is Curt's part number 55329. As you can see, it's some wiring. What wiring? Well, this is going to be an adapter harness. It'll basically, as you can hopefully see there, work with 95 to 01. I would assume 94 to 01 would be accurate. 94 to 02 for 3/4 and 1 ton most likely, but it's basically going to allow us to adapt into our reverse light harness, essentially tail lights, whatever you want to call them, and drop it down, have the 4-pin connector, and it should all be plug and play. Now at the same time, I need to come in and source a reverse wire, and since I'm going to run the camera, I've already got the camera location picked. I'm routing it on the passenger side. I've already got the floor drilled. Everything I do is going to be on this side. So where we're at, I cannot find the Matco ratchet. I really do make a point of using it. That's probably why it's lost. But it is nowhere. I had it soaking in ballastal rags for a long time, and it seems like we were using it. I don't know if it's like up under the truck. Hopefully I remember to scan there. I can't find that thing anywhere. Needed to grab these because I had no idea what size of fastener I would be dealing with there. The book, again, as you might have guessed, it is absolutely worthless in that regard. Turns out it is, dun 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 dun, not sure that that's going to show up too well. It's a T20. I think you can actually see that. So, sometimes these are super tight. These, honest to gosh, I have never had to change a taillight bulb. So, that's why this one was of interest to me. We're going to need a T20. Went ahead, I thought, well, can't find the Matco. What do we do? Started to grab a new door, and I thought, you know what, let's use, these are Wiha bits. Let's use the Wiha ratchet with a custom handle. So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to crack this open. I was honestly just planning on sourcing the reverse, and then I thought, you know what? It might be easier. I don't know where the pins and the harness plugs are, but it might be easier to source it through here. If not, we'll get underneath the truck and figure it out. But bottom line, we're going to break this sucker free and see what we're working with. Alright, so those were not near as tight. I would almost describe them as loose, just literally hand tied almost. So that was a surprise. Figured they'd be stuck in there pretty good. Taillight looks to be in really good shape. Also, if you know me, we're going to be detailing the snot out of this, because why not? It's 20 plus years old at this point in time. Now, as best I can tell, our factory harness drops down. You can see this little push pin connector. I think that is right where we're going to want to be. I don't know that I can, the camera's way too big to get in there, but maybe it's not, right? I think you can see the top of the connector. I think that's where we're probably going to join everything. So, coming back over here, as you can see, we've got our 2001 Ford Ram right there. One thing, I realize this is very simplistic stuff, but this is not a universal kit. This is literally just for 95 to 03, essentially, Rams and Dakotas. Again, we can call that 94 to 02, maybe 03 on a Dakota. But would it be like that much more difficult? You're taking the time to do this. Maybe, just maybe, you know, at least put the truck and maybe take the time to, you know, line out, hey, you're going to need a T20 or something along those lines. I don't know. Just a complaint I have. It's, if you go to this length to put anything at all, do it right. If you're not going to put forth any effort aside from printing and wasting the paper, don't even do it. That's my thoughts, you know. Which again, that's not a knock on Curt. A lot of people do it, but it's just kind of like, come on, man. You know, you can do better than this. So what we get looks like some little tag here. Not exactly sure. Get about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is that? Maybe a 8-inch zip tie. I think there's a screw in there. Right there, there's a self-tapping screw, and then we've got this harness right here. So take note, you've got connector 1, connector 2, and connector 3. So there's also connector 4. Obviously, we're going to splice this in, and instead of us having to literally cut wires and use, you know, butt connectors or male and female joints or solder or whatever, this is just kind of plug and play. There's no convoluted tubing included, no wire covering, none of that stuff. You'll also note we have the trailer pin right there. You can kind of see the bullet connector on it. It does come with this little cover, which is nice. I don't know how long that'll hold up, but at least it is included initially. And so basically, we're going to pull this thing out and see if we can release our connectors, get this sucker in place, and try to identify which one of these wires is our reverse. So we'll figure that out and be right back. Oh yeah, let me tell you, this was fun. So, real simple. You see the connection, you know the connection, you know how to take the connection apart. You just can't get it apart. Obviously, you don't want to rip it, don't want to tear it, don't want to have to do, you know, tracking down obscure odds and ends. So, we've since gotten it totally disconnected. That's going to be the end going to the taillight. This is going to be the end coming from the body. And the light is up there, it's not down here. And I think you can kind of see that. Like, if you think you saw dirt cascade out of there, you totally did. So ultimately, had to use these relay pullers plus this flat blade. I was then able to come in and grip it like this, while simultaneously pushing straight in on the tab. And then I had to shimmy. It's very difficult to shimmy without cutting your hands. You also don't have much space. But we finally got this stupid thing out of there so we can install the adapter harness. Before we do that though, we want to source the positive signal for our backup lights. Alright, so there's the icon light that's on flood mode going down in there. Kind of something I didn't really think of. It only rotates in flood mode, which sort of sucks because you would sometimes like to have this go 90 degrees. Is what it is, but we've got that disconnected, and I cleaned it up pretty well. Let me set everything down. We're obviously not done in there cleaning. My hands are covered in acres and acres of dust of disconnecting that. But if I can do this part one-handed for you, right here, okay, our top, that is not anything we're concerned with. That is a brake light, tail light, whatever you want to call it. Tail and brake, essentially. Down here, though, this center one, there's not a third. There's a top, there's a middle, and there's no bottom. So top and bottom, top and middle, whatever you want to call it. If you pay attention to this connector, see how it lines up with our reverse lens, right? That's because that's what that is. If you note, the plug itself, I'm not sure if this is really hard for me to hold and not drop, but what that essentially says, and I'm unable to do this with just, let me try to get a knee in here. Okay, if I zoom in, there's ground, minor, and major, alright? We're concerned with ground, and it's black, and that's not what we want. What we want then is the only other wire, which is purple with a black tracer. So, since we've got the factory harness, you know, nice little plastic sheathing there, we want to connect it right there. I hate doing it, but we're going to do it. We're going to use a little, you know, tap die, if you will. You could cut it, you could do a spade connector, you could do twin bullet connectors, you can do whatever you want to do. Easiest thing is just going to be one of the guillotine connectors, right? And we're going to run purple. I finally got my purple wire. And we'll have it route down through here with the factory stuff, then to the backup camera, then all the way into the cab. This way, well, all this is going to do, we can totally use the backup camera as is. You just have to enter it manually. When you send the reverse signal input from here all the way up to the camera and the head unit, it's simply going to, anytime you go into reverse, switch automatically to the camera. That's what we want. Again, if you don't want to do all this, if you don't want to jack with finding a reverse wire, if you're fine every time you want to back up or anything going manually to the camera, you can completely skip this step anytime you install a backup camera. However, if you want the convenience of being able to throw it in reverse and boom, there's your backup camera, you're going to need to source the signal. So that's what we're doing here. And again, purple with the black tracer, I'd be shocked if that's incorrect. That's what I'm going to roll with. And we're basically going to run the guillotine spade. I'll have the purple wire, and then we will connect to the purple wire off of the back of our Kenwood. It might actually be purple, the black tracer. Could be a white tracer, I can't remember. We'll get up there, take a look, but that's the one we want. Again, if you're doing your connections on the driver's side, proceed accordingly. Since we're using the passenger side, this is what's going to work best for me. I'm trying to get that back in. You got to realize, like, this is a painted setup, you know, so we're trying not to scuff either one of them. But if I tap the creeper out of the way and we come over here, it turns out there's a backside, which is still not application specific, but it's better than nothing. Right here, these guys are what we're concerned about. The passenger side, you want a white and green wire. All right, that's going to be these two. They're white and green, right? And then the driver's side gets the yellow and the brown. So you could probably cross them. I don't know. I'm not going to try it and find out. But essentially, the directions literally say white and green passenger side. So that's what we're going to do. But very simple, easy access. It's just incredibly difficult to get that thing apart. That's a factory connector that's been there 20 plus years and never disconnected. Tons. So much dirt was down in there. I think so much so, in fact, I'm going to get a little dielectric grease on these suckers, and hopefully if I ever have to take this apart or want to take it apart or whatever, we're home free on that front. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this lined up, see what these inundation of texts are, and get back to you. Alright, so just about ready to make the connection. Again, trying to just think ahead here. That should get me under the truck and into the cabin, probably to the radio with a little extra. We'll just cut it off and have it for test wire after that point in time. But very nice, vibrant purple. I was real happy with it. We're going to go ahead and connect that to the purple with the black tracer at the reverse light here at the tail light. We'll route it down with the factory stuff and then couple it with our backup camera wire, and that's what we will route under the passenger side frame rail over towards our hole that we've drilled, and that will be how we source our reverse signal. So there it is. Again, exact length, I don't know. Just you can leave it connected if you want to. You just sort of have a hard time spooling it exact, so I just went ahead and estimated it, and I think we should be covered. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the connection. All right, lots going on. Purple wires here. I've started routing it towards the front. I connected the battery. We are not getting reverse lights. I'm not quite sure how the routing is done from the factory. We had the splice harness in on the passenger side, not on the driver's side, so I don't know. I thought maybe, well, the signal just carries over and it's connected. I'm not bothered to research it with that trash joke of a manual. It's better to just do it by trial and error. So over here, this was a worse experience than the driver's side. Case in point, probably because I would need to be oriented the other direction. That's just insanely tight up against there. And believe it or not, what actually had to come out and play was the Cobras with the soft jaw covers, and I just ripped that thing off. I looked at the time, I thought it was after 8, and I thought, man, I haven't even had supper. Planned to do that, work out, shower, get to bed at a decent time, and I thought, you know what, better call it a night. And then I said, nope, one more try, and we ripped it free. The amount of dirt in these things is absolutely insane. I spent a lot of time tapping this one clean. We should probably blow that out, but anyway, this would be our factory harness. We need to now get our splice connector in. I started routing that over. That's what those are, of course, yellow and brown to the driver's side. And then I decided, I think it'd probably be better if I ran the convoluted tubing ahead of time. So I think I'm going to rip that back out and make that happen. Sadly, in order to do that, I've got to actually go to the other side and make that happen. So I'll probably get that off and then kind of call it a night. I've actually started cleaning this. You probably can't tell. Don't know if we're going to pull that tail light or not somehow. Again, miraculously, by the way of Cobra, we were able to get that off. That's just an insanely tight spot. Again, sharp, jagged edges for your hands. Don't know why I'm not wearing gloves. Usually do. But absolute nightmare. It's so simple. It's just 20 years, man, it never coming free. It's one of those things. So way up in there, not sure if you can tell, but this is a splice harness. I've got the joys of getting that out. Now the good news is I didn't film it, but I did put dielectric grease on all of the pins, so I'm hoping that helps me out a little bit there. But anyway, I'll probably get that off, run inside and make a chili dog, and just start this wonderful adventure again tomorrow night after work. So anyway, I'll get that off and see how we're doing. Alright, so I got sidetracked by a little project I had to take on, but where we left off, I think we had started to install this when I realized it would make way more sense to put our wrap on it before we actually wire it up. So that's what we're going to do here on the tailgate. And lucky for me, I've got some choices here. Now the factory utilized convoluted tubing just like what you see here throughout the underside of the truck, so we've got some fancier stuff, but I think we're just going to replicate what they had. Particularly, it's a relatively inexpensive trailer light harness, plug and play. We want to protect it, but we don't want to go overboard. So right here I've got a little 10-foot run. This is from Taylor, and then in the box I've actually got 50 feet. So I'm quite confident we can go from here to here, probably with the 10. So that's what we're going to start with, but I'll just literally kind of loom this thing out. I'll try to remember to film it, and then we'll take it under the truck, route it like we want it, tie it up, secure it, and kind of show you the end result. Alright, so here's the progress. We've got the 4-pin connector, backed the loom off just a little bit right there. We'll probably come in and tape it just a tad. The only real issue, there's a couple of places where these are bundled together with cable ties. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually cut those, tape inside, cable tie around it. We might wind up actually just cutting what the factory did, and then kind of creating our own connection points, if you will. I don't have the fancy Ys. If I do, I don't know where they are. So when we get up here, this basically splits off, obviously brown and yellow, white and green, driver and passenger side. So I've left a little bit more because, again, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do to handle it, but I've gone ahead. This is sort of like a midway point for us. On the brown and yellow side, we've got the convoluted tubing backed up all the way to the cable tie, routes all the way up, and we've stopped here, right where those connections are. Again, we might wind up taping that, might wind up leaving it exposed. I'm not 100% sure. All we have left here is the white and the green side. We have yay much convoluted tubing left from our 10 feet. Will it cover it? I kind of think it will. 2 wires fit really nicely. The 4 wires, it's pretty snug, but I mean, as you can see, that's kind of like max capacity on it. So it's definitely doable with 1/4. If you had 5/16, you know, you might go that route. But we're just gonna make do. I think I am gonna snip that. The more I see that, it just kind of bothers me. It's just sort of raised up, makes it look bad, kind of like a cheap job. So we'll go ahead, we'll cut a few cable ties, put some on, get some tape on this thing, and it'll be ready to go under the truck. We were that close, literally like, what, 2.5, 3 inches from being where we would spread it anyway. So I'll call that a win. We used our 10-foot wisely. Would that piece fill in the gap? Possibly. Will we try it? Yes, but just one of those deals. Like I said, I kind of wanted the overlap because I wasn't quite sure how we were going to terminate and connect the split, if you will. So anyway, just need to cut the cable ties, kind of get this taped up too, and then we took that bundle of wires that you could see all over the place into a nice convoluted tubing. Going to keep it covered, going to keep it protected a little bit better from the elements, wear and tear, tugs, all that sort of a thing. And it'll also help us when we just simply route it, because that is, again, as dumb as it seems, that is a very likely place that you could scuff the insulation on the wire and then create all kinds of headaches for you as you constantly try to diagnose when things are coming on and when they're not coming on, and why they sometimes do and sometimes don't. So a little bit extra time here on the tailgate saves you a lot of headache in the future. So I'll get this thing taped up, and then probably going to need to check the dielectric grease again, and then we'll just go ahead and get it coupled in between the factory connections. Alright, quick little tip here in case you don't think ahead, which sometimes happens. When you're faced with a deal like this, you pull the convoluted tubing or the wire covering off, and you're about to snip the cable tie. You got to stop and think. That's going to result in some slack. There's going to be looseness. Will it spring? Will it not spring? Who knows? But by simply applying tape on both sides of the connector, you can minimize that. Again, tape will come off. And now we're ready to snip our little cable tie there, finish the tape job, just again to keep the wires kind of bundled as they were, and that will allow us to seat the convoluted tubing way better, and that'll make me happy. Alright, so I think this thing is ready to throw in underneath the truck. Again, we've covered the whole thing in convoluted tubing. We came in, that is our juncture right there. Just kind of dress it up with some tape to kind of keep it nice and secure. And then we split off, and the way we terminated that is we just kind of went a little tape happy there. Sort of, again, just kind of trying to keep dust, moisture, whatever, out of the convoluted tubing. And we're leaving that open. I mean, the factory wiring is the same way, and if you tape it up, you don't really have any play, and then you create headaches for yourself. So I think we're ready to go. I wish I had a drink out here so I could kind of get my voice back, but it is what it is, and should be able to just throw this mess of wires underneath the truck, splice into the rear tail lamp circuit, and essentially be ready to plug in a trailer. So that's going to be super nice, and we will get that set up here in just a second. You see that little jerk down there? Well, he's trying to climb now. That's why I get paranoid down here. But anyway, you'll note receiver hitch, trailer lights, what's going on? Well, we've got it kind of staged like I want it. So the first thing I did is I made the connection over here on the passenger side. Very, very difficult to get an audible click up there. The factory harness to the adapter, great. The adapter harness to the factory taillight connector, that took a lot of effort to get that thing to click. You'll note the clean, shiny convoluted tubing, which hopefully you can tell this is clean and this is dusty. If I touch that, you'll be hit with the sands of the Sahara. We're going to cable tie that up. That's what I have. They included like 6 cable ties for me or something. So we'll get that cable tied up. As we come over here, you start to, again, hopefully be able to differentiate. What I did, I went up and over right there. You can kind of see where the frame rail is here on the bottom. That's where our hitch is bolted. This is sort of bed structure up there, sort of in the gray primer, and we went up and over that cross member. You'll see the same thing on the driver's side in a second. That's where the light's at. Once we did that, though, you'll note what I'm moving there is our new convoluted tubing. I ran it over our spare tire drop, if you will, and that is then where this drops off. This is dead even with where we have the split in the harness. I don't know if you can really see that up there, but just take my word for it. And as we come over, you can now see a little bit better with the light. That is our, harness, the convoluted tubing we just did. Once again, good Lord, this is difficult for you to see. I'll just tap focus constantly, but right there, this that you see, if I put my finger in there, it'll get blurry, but that one, with the shadow up there, which throws you off, we actually jump over the bed structure again, and then we come down, because I have not connected this side just yet. So, if I swing this around, you can see right there, kind of, that's our factory harness. And then way up there where you kind of see that red and yellow, kind of, that is the clip. I kind of wish those weren't connected to the body. That makes it really difficult, but what I'll try to do this time is reverse the order of operations. I'll try to make that connection and then come down and do the adapter harness to the factory harness. But basically what I plan to do with the cable ties, I'm going to put one essentially like in this area, basically between the frame rail and the tail lights. There's probably a good point up there. It's just can't see with the spare. So I might tie it to that bed structure where you can kind of see that oval, see that rusted bolt, and then see the oval slot. We might go there. That's again one of the perks of convoluted tubing. Here we could tie off to the factory, or we could tie off to the spare. Who knows what we'll do. And then right here, same thing, we're just going to put a cable tie around the factory harness, and this one, just keep it from dropping down and looking stupid, basically. And then eventually we'll figure out how we want to route this. We'll probably just wrap it through one of the safety chain slots. But yeah, that's about it for now. So now that we have a light, you can see this. Man, it's so difficult to do this as one-man show sometimes. You can see right there, again, the dusty thing at the bottom of your picture. I'm sort of zeroed in on right now. That's the factory harness. It goes to our adapter. The adapter jumps then to the tail light. And so right here then the convoluted tubing comes around. You got the general idea. The purple wire, of course, is where we tapped into reverse. That will run up with the camera wire, which is currently this thing here that's casting a shadow. So, I'm going to get this cable tied, make it look a little bit more professional. Hopefully I don't have a spider crawl up my leg, and after that, we'll be home free. So, let's see if we can get this thing connected and wrapped. Alright, driver's side taillight all connected. We cable tied there, haven't bothered to cut the ends off, but we are out over and up through the bed structure. Then we wind up right there. I did that so we could pick up the slack of convoluted tubing away from the license plate frame area. That's what that is. Or you see those wires kind of going in, that's just a license plate light. So we've got the convoluted tubing up and hidden. Right here, obviously not hidden, is our trailer harness. And then where we're going to plug right there, we've got it strapped with a cable tie. Again, I left the ends on so you could tell what we had done. That keeps that up and out of the way, lifted out of sight. And same thing here, we simply strapped there, and that's going to keep it up and out of sight, out of harm's way, hopefully. So on that front, I'm barely able to talk here. Gotta run in and get something to drink. Probably need to eat, didn't realize it was 8 o'clock already. But we've got this set up here. I don't know, I never know where I'm going to end these videos, so if that's it, that's it. If not, we'll be back. We'll be doing some more stuff to wrap up here, but yeah. The trailer harness is installed. We just basically need to come over to that side and get that little protective cover on. Why? Because they included it. So on that front, we'll get that done and we'll see where we're at next time. Oh yeah. So I'm not gonna lie, I had messed with this and nothing was working properly. I just thought, you know, hey, before I run inside, get supper to get a drink. I don't know what the truck's doing, hopefully nothing bad. But I was on the brake. You have to press the brake, of course, you know, to get the truck into reverse. And boom, shaka freaking laka, we have got reverse lights. I don't know why it looks like it's nighttime Halloween scene in here. The lights are on, as you can now see, hopefully. But boom, that is something that I love to see. Gonna end the night on a positive note. Let's run in the truck and try to end it on a less positive note because I heard it dinging. Oh, you know what? It's actually good. Maybe. Not quite sure why the parking brake is flashing. So low washer fluid. Okay, let me just focus that for you. Low washer fluid. We're out of washer fluid, so that's understandable. Airbag, understandable. It's not connected. Low fuel light. Hey, we don't have fuel. Not sure what the check engine's in regard to. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is set you down here. I'm going to tap the brake. I look back there, the brakes are working. I'm going to go back into park. Okay, now the brake light is not flashing. Let's actually... Oh, that's a seat belt? I'm not sure. Check gauges as well. So I hit the parking brake. Oh, I don't have that connected yet. That was stupid. Okay, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but we're going to end on a happy note there that this stuff is matching what we know. No gas, no washer fluid, airbags, yeah, that makes sense. And we've got reverse lights is the main thing. That's what I wanted to check, so very cool. Also, I'm not sure you'll be able to tell, but the airbag light there is on as well, so cool. That's actually a good sign. Again, the truck is understanding what we're doing, and we're getting close to hopefully not having any issues. So with that said, reverse lights are a go.